Hi, my name is Brissa Willis, and in this presentation, I'm going to be talking about my design project for PBIS training for educators. And before I get started, I wanted to kind of talk about what exactly PBIS is. So PBIS stands for Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. This strategy is something that many schools have been doing, but over the years, more and more schools are starting to integrate PBIS into their schools. And the purpose of PBIS is to help increase the desired behaviors and decrease the undesired behaviors that teachers might see during the instructional day. In order to ensure that what I was creating was going to support teachers and be beneficial, I went through the 5 stages of the 80 model. I went through analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. And through this PowerPoint, I'm going to be talking about each aspect independently. Before moving forward, it was really important for both my client and I to sit down and talk about the current problems with the training. And my client happens to be the assistant principal at the elementary school, and she also happens to be the individual who is responsible for conducting the training for PBIS for the teachers. And one of the biggest problems that we identified was that with the current training, it only taught teachers how to get parents connected, but it never taught teachers how they themselves can get connected to the app, nor did it teach teachers how to use the features available. So that meant that educators were having to figure everything out on their own besides how to get parents connected. On top of that, the other problem was that teachers were having a hard time figuring out how to give students the points because it required them to get out their phones and then select the points, and it was taking a lot of time out of their instruction to give students the points. And the only way that PBIS is effective is if teachers are being consistent with giving students their points. Once we were able to figure out the current problems with the training, we were then able to identify the 2 goals. The first goal that we want our teachers to be able to do is to be able to navigate not only through the PBIS app, but also the website as well, since PBIS uses both. It's both on an app and it's also on a website. Secondly, we also want teachers to be able to find ways to ensure that they're giving students their PBIS points. Identified the 2 goals, we then moved on to figuring out 5 objectives, the 5 things that we want teachers to be able to do at the conclusion of the training. And the first one was customize. We want teachers to be able to customize the PBIS app to stay organized and easily locate students to give points to. We also want teachers to be able to appropriately use the different features available through the website and app. We want teachers to demonstrate their understanding of what the app looks like from a parent's perspective by supporting families when needed. We want teachers to select appropriate strategies to implement to ensure they are giving students PBIS points through the app or website. And then finally, we want teachers to be able to identify and locate the different features available through the website and app. After identifying the goals and the objectives, I was then able to move on to the design phase of the 80 model. And prior to this, my client and I had discussed how maybe the training doesn't all need to be held online, nor does it all need to be held in person. So with taking that into consideration, I decided that the training was going to be held both online, and then there was going to be a second part of the training that would be held in person. Both trainings would focus on 2 different things. So the online training is going to focus on helping achieve the first learning goal, which was teachers being able to navigate not only through the PBIS website, but also the app. So the platform that's going to be used for the training is going to be Articulate 360, and the link will be sent out to participants through their email and then also on Microsoft Teams. This training will help teachers not only understand how to log on and the features that are available through PBIS rewards, but it will also help teachers understand what PBIS looks like from a parent's perspective and then also from a student's perspective, so that if a family in their class or a student in their class needs help, the teacher would be able to support them. Once participants click on the link that will be provided to them in order to access the training online, this is what it's going to look like on their screen. It's going to say the title of the training, which is PBIS Training, and then right below it, it's going to say Start Course. Participants will need to select Start Course, and once they do, it will take them to the very first lesson, which is what is PBIS. And this over here, this is a really cool feature that participants have available to them, and it kind of just helps them keep track of all the lessons that they've done, and it also lets them know in advance what lesson is coming next and what lessons they are going to go through. So right up here where it says lesson 1 of 6, that just lets participants know that they are on the first lesson out of 6. If they were to move on to PBIS rewards logging in, then it would say lesson 2 of 6. Right here where it says 17% complete, that means that they only have 17% of the course completed, and they will need to have 100% of the course completed. And because the platform that's being used for the training is one that teachers aren't familiar with, there are directions and there's also features that say click here, and once participants click on there, it will take them to the next section of the website. As stated previously, this training is 2 parts. Part 1 is online through Articulate 360, and the second part of the training is held in person. And the in-person training focuses on helping teachers find simple and quick ways to give student PBIS points so that it's not becoming a hassle for teachers and that it's not taking away from instruction. And in order to achieve that, the facilitator is going to first just start by asking participants if they have any questions or anything that they need clarified from the first part of the training. After that, then the facilitator is going to talk about, again, why PBIS is important and why being consistent with giving students points is important as well. Following that, the facilitator will have participants break out into teams, and those teams will brainstorm different ideas of how to give students points. And maybe these teachers are already implementing these ideas, or maybe not. So after giving teachers time to brainstorm, they'll document their ideas on a piece of anchor chart paper that will be provided to them. And then after everyone is done, each team will present their ideas, and this will help a conversation going. And this might even help teachers brainstorm even more ways to give students their points. During the design phase, it was also really important to create assessments in order to check for teachers' knowledge and to also see if they've achieved the learning goals and the learning objectives. And so there are a lot of different assessments that have been integrated into this training, and one of them is observations. And during the observations, the observer is just looking at how frequently is the educator giving students their points. And the hope is that the observer can observe teachers more than one time just so that they have more data to look off of. Another type of assessment that has been integrated is through Articulate 360, and this is what the quiz looks like, or the test. So at the conclusion of the training online, participants will be required to take a quiz, And the quiz covers everything that teachers have been taught throughout that training. And in order to pass, they have to receive an 80 or higher. And if they receive anything lower than an 80, then they will have to take it again. And once they've passed the quiz, this is what they'll take a screenshot of, and then they will email it or print it off and then make sure that they are giving it to the appropriate person. Finally, another type of assessment that has been integrated is these quick checks. And the quick checks are integrated into the different sections of the online training, and the quick checks only focus on that section. So for instance, this example right here, it says, what does PBIS stand for? Well, that was talked about in the very beginning of that lesson. And then finally, another type of assessment that has been integrated is just during the in-person training, as teachers are responding to questions and as teachers are having conversations with each other, the facilitator is just listening and taking in everything that they're saying and is checking for, are they using the appropriate terminology, and is what they are saying, is it correct? Does it make sense? After everything was designed, it was then time to move on to the implementation stage of the 80 model. And for the implementation stage, I conducted 2 beta tests. The reason I did that is because since the training is 2 parts, I felt like both parts of the training needed a beta test, plus I had the time to do that. And so the first beta test conducted was the online training, and the participants consisted of representatives from each grade level, 1 assistant principal, and 2 school interventionists. And simply what they did was they completed the training from top to bottom, and the expectation wasn't that they completed the training in 1 day. I gave them about 3 to 4 days to complete it, and during that time, I conducted a check-in, and I held the check-in in person, and if participants were not able to attend in person, then I sent them a link via Teams so that they could join. After the first beta test was conducted, I then did a second one, and the second beta test focused on the training that would be held in person, and the participants were the exact same, so those who participated in the first beta test also participated in the second one, and those individuals were representatives from each grade level, 1 assistant principal, and again, 2 school interventionists. And what they did is they completed the training that would be held in person. After doing both beta tests, I looked over all of the feedback and suggestions that participants had provided me, and I took all of those into consideration and made appropriate adjustments. And after all of that was done, I then was able to move on to the final training. And the final training consisted of different participants. These participants ranged in experience and consisted of classroom teachers. And the biggest benefit of the final training was that I actually had long-term subs who were brand new to the school, who were unfamiliar with PBIS, so they got to go through this training as well. Not only was it important to evaluate the participants, but it was also important to evaluate the training as a whole. And the way that I did that was by sending out a survey link to those who participated in both parts of the training. And this allowed participants to voice their opinions and also give any suggestions and feedback of the training. And so you can see that for the first question, a majority rated it a 4. And then for the second question, a majority found this material relevant to their current position. For the third question, 100% found the material extremely clear. And then for the fourth question, a majority found the activities they went through during the training engaging. After looking at all the data that had been collected from observations, surveys, and the quizzes, I believe overall that my training was a success, and I truly learned a lot from this experience.